Hide and go Remy right there. Hey, Rem, how's it going?
Good. How you doing, Bob?
I'm good. So on the last episode we did,
Yes.
we spoke about it was like a welcome back Cotter type of thing, you know, without the welcome back song or the original or Mace's version.
Good call.
To the place. By the way, with everything we've learned about Diddy, do you think that's the reason? So some shit like that is the reason Mace really went away for a while?
Oh, 100%, dude.
100%.
Not only did he go away, he did what? A record or two with Diddy. He was kind of side by side with him.
And he was like, I'm sorry, he was
up there when he
was
disappeared.
up there.
And then he vanished.
Yep.
I promise you that motherfucker, who's now a minister, saw some devil shit.
Yeah, and he said, I'm not selling my soul.
Or a guy tried to suck his dick and he wasn't fucking with it.
And then Diddy was like, why are you ruining the vibe?
And then he said,
let him suck your dick.
What I have heard, dude, too, like in a crazy way, is that, like, you know, if those are said, let him suck your dick. That took me a minute to hear that.
That's all right. I slid it in there.
No, it was just like Diddy
like Diddy slides it in. And I'm not talking about DMs.
But like, wait, what was my original thought? I'm sorry.
We were talking about Mace and how Mace became a minister.
Oh yeah, and I think that I think he realized early that no amount of money is worth this fucking. And then so he decided, especially if the devil was fucking with him, to just fully go to God.
Yep, and I like that. I appreciate him.
Cool,
I appreciate
man.
you for that. I appreciate Mace.
He used an umbrella of light to protect himself from the umbrella of dark. And but yeah, 100%.
And so if you think about it, because what our episode today is going to be about, and we're gonna give you backstory like we usually do to get into it.
This is gonna be intense.
Is we're talking about like the fuckery that goes on in Hollywood. We're talking about the stuff that people are talking about. Like people are talking about Quiet on the Set.
Yeah.
Nickelodeon, how children are mistreated, how other people are mistreated because you're a nothing to them. You're a thing to get, you're a means to an end, and then you're spit out and thrown away.
Yeah. You're meat in a machine.
But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the people that get spit out and thrown away. And specifically because
we worked with them.
And more specifically, I went through this thing in the winter of 2024 where Netflix was doing a lot of documentaries about like children reform schools and just like
military group homes.
Yeah, military group homes and things that were clearly by Scared Straight, and how you saw that they were just like Ponzi schemes, and kids were just downright being abused and sexually assaulted
and murdered,
and in some cases
not murdered, but
some cases negligently killed. Yes, and these were just run by terrible people who were they weren't about making children better. They were about putting money in their pocket, and essentially for some children who didn't need to be there.
Yeah.
And for other ones, it made them abused, or it made people who were never victims of abuse victims.
The Zennial Odyssey podcast, where we discuss life from the point of view of people born in the late 1970s to the early to mid 1980s. We discuss growing up analog and navigating adulthood in a digital world. Please come join us as we look to uncover what it actually means to be a Zennial.
The parents too. Imagine like you're fucking up at home or whatever, and you know you're giving warnings. I get that. I feel bad for some of the parents because the parents are like, "Oh, this is a system, so it can be trusted."
Yeah,
but also
boomers.
like sending.
But they were boomers.
Very
boomers.
Sending your kid into a place. And by the way, one of these places will kick open the kid's door at 4 a.m., go in while they're dead asleep, drag them out of bed. So these kids are instantly traumatized
and
for
essentially
life.
Do a death hike.
Yeah. And then the whole program is like just intense physical abuse.
Yeah. Did you see the one about the reform school in upstate New York?
Not sure.
That one was rough. It is by an Academy Award winning documentary director who actually her father put her in there when she was 16 years old, and she shared with it. Like her and a bunch of people went back. It's closed now.
Yeah.
And her and a bunch of people that she met there or that she connected with, they went back and they just toured the place, and there's still records that are in there that nobody has. And then they went to where the records are stored, and then they shared their stories. And she shared letters that she would write her dad about, like, why don't you love me?
Yeah.
I understand that I made some mistakes, and I'm genuinely sorry.
But you sent me to hell.
Yeah. And then at the end, her dad never, like in a boomer fashion, like never like resolving it. And she has to, as a grown woman who's been carrying the weight of it,
just let it go.
just to do that with her. And it's just like, damn. And what it made me think of is how we live in a state, Massachusetts. And Massachusetts is held up as like a...
Well, 2 states. We live actually in a split between Massachusetts and anxiety.
Yeah. But the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is held up as this like beacon of like healthcare
Rehabilitation.
and rehabilitation. And people send people from other states here. And much like the place we worked at, they were specialized. And I know we've always danced around the place we've talked about. We're not going to mention them by name because we won't get sued or have this taken down. But we worked at essentially an all-boys program.
Mm-hmm.
And to be admitted to that program, you had to be between the ages of 10 and 22. You have to have some form of mental illness, and that could be post-traumatic stress.
Anything, bipolar.
You have to have a history of trauma, and you have to have some type of sexual behavior, which could be the trauma.
Yep.
You could have like abuse or neglect, or you could have like paraphilias, which just means that you basically, in modern days, is like you have kinks.
Yeah.
Which is wild to me that like people like 25 years ago, like things people do now could end you up in a place like where we work.
Yeah, if someone wasn't into it, or if you had a parent or something, it's like you were considered a freak. Even homosexuals back then were sent away.
And really, just because I find these documentaries that I watched, and I don't know about the ones, I find them triggering.
Oh, incredible.
I find them triggering. So we worked with people who had extreme trauma. And you don't leave a job like that without your own trauma.
No, and we can't stress to you. We can't stress to you what extreme trauma means.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking about the worst example of physical and mental abuse and sexual abuse that we wouldn't eat. We're not going to venture to tell you any of that stuff because that shit's private to the people who experience it. But I promise you, I'll quote what Drake Bell said in Quiet on the Set. I promise you that whatever you're thinking, it's 100 times worse than that.
Do you know, I hint at when I do at my job, when I do trainings and I have to talk about trauma, I talk vaguely about the job, and I talk about like, you know, you get unique experiences at this place we worked, but you also leave with your own trauma. And I said, like, I mean, you used to do co-lead in therapy groups. I did co-lead. You hear stories that make you lose your faith in humanity.
Oh,
you do.
From the mouths of the people who experience them.
Yep, you do.
You know, and you'll have therapists there who some of them were good at their job, some weren't.
Nope.
Some are just triggering. They're like, all right, tell me exactly what happened. And how did you feel with a dick in your ass? And it's like, I want to die.
Yep. The other thing that I thought of is, and it's very true too, where we worked. Now, beggars can't be choosers for staff, especially in human services.
Yeah.
But a job like this just happens to attract people with their own like traumas and damaged people who haven't resolved it.
Yep.
So that does more harm than good in and of itself.
Yep.
And there are people like who would be so open to a complete stranger. Well, you know, yes, like I just feel like I could give back because like insert whatever horrible trauma thing happened to me, and I can be there for someone. And I'm like sitting there looking at them going, no, you can't.
I know. I made one girl quit the first day.
Yeah, it's better that way.
She was like, oh, blah, 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 my brother got abused when he was 13. And I'm like, no, you need to go. No.
This ain't for you. And
nothing against her. We weren't mean. We just said this place is going to break you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what we wanted to do was to kind of talk about how this is something that continues to go on. A lot of the documentaries present it like, oh, it's in the past. This is something.
I promise you, there are 15 places right now.
Very present. This is very present. Exactly. There's like 15 places like that in Massachusetts right now.
So how these places kind of work, right?
Yeah.
They will be the thinnest form of ex-military or ex-something. That'll be their basis for starting it. But like, keep in mind, they'll be like, I was an ex-Marine, and they could have been a Marine for a week who got discharged.
They could have been dishonorably discharged.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So, and a lot of the angles is like, listen, we know your kids are fucked up. They just need some fucking discipline. These are ripped guys dressed like drill sergeants. Usually a lot of these places are in like fucking Nevada and shit because they want them to hike the desert till they die.
And they don't want anyone to know what's going on.
They don't want it to be openly accessible to cameras and people. So all these places are buried in mountains and in deserts. And they'll say they're accredited and have licenses, and maybe they do, but the kind of licenses they get are bought.
Yep.
They're not literal like, we're doing this safely. And then what you ultimately have are these crazy drill sergeants who put these kids through military drills. Doesn't sit down and be like, what happened to you? Do you get sleep? Like, what's your mind like? Are you anxious? None of that. Nothing at all that actually is guided to help them. It's like, You're a little maggot, faggot, motherfucking pile of shit, and your parents are sick of you, so you just gotta walk this fucking canyon with a rag over your head, carrying 46 pounds in your backpack, and you can't stop to breathe or take a drink, and if you do, we'll punch you in the face. Now, grrr! That's what it's like.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they wonder why, oh, what, a kid just dropped dead.
Yeah, it's like, oh, why is he worse off than when he came?
Why is he now really fucked up? He won't look us in the eyes. He won't let us hug him. He doesn't leave his room. He cries all the fucking time. Oh, you helped him, though. He's not acting out anymore.
Yeah, I think for me, the worst thing about a couple of these places is how they gave you a diploma, and they weren't accredited to do so.
Oh yeah, it's not. It's worth a fucking Chinese food fortune. It has no value in the world.
Yep. So, So like, oh wow, thanks, mom and dad, and a lot of the people who do go on those documentaries, that were similar to the places we worked at, they said, oh yeah, and when you thought your trauma was over, no. And what's worse is like, I remember this one man from the place in upstate New York.
Yeah.
When he found out that basically he was given a piece of paper, so he had to go back to school to get his GED. And he already had his feelings about mom. This is another thing I resent you for, mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he said, like, unfortunately his mom like has passed away.
So
it just ended in resentment. It just ended in resentment. But he was also like I'm sad, but I still hate her as much as I'm sad.
And you know what's crazy?
Like, that's a tragedy.
These parents, you spent upwards of $100,000 for these places. But I think the idea of mailing your kid away and hoping he comes back fine is really fucked up.
Yep. It's the epitome of I've failed as a parent, so
fuck it.
Somebody do my job for me.
Yep.
Now,
and how about the kids who get indoctrinated though, and then they become counselors in like 5 years at those places?
Yep. And then they rape and molest kids, because that was stuff that's covered in the documentaries too.
Yeah, a lot of these places, the people running them are weirdos, power hungry, and these kids are sort of abused and neglected.
And then the cycle of abuse just continues.
They'll act like they like you and blah, blah,
Groom
blah.
you.
Yep. And it's like, we worked at a place, but here's the thing. We worked with women who did that.
Yeah, we did. Yep. So it's not a gender thing. It's just it happens.
It happens, dude. Like grown women who with totally normal lives and seem to be okay, giving their life up to sleep with like a 14-year-old pedophile boy. Like we have more than one example.
And males doing that too. Because I have stories of male staff workers doing similar things. But,
I 100% believe it. I 100% believe it. Yeah, yes. I don't think it's gender specific. Some of the kids we work with, like these Connecticut gangster kids, and they were kind of manipulative. They knew how to be charming and funny.
They were survivors.
But guess what? It was the adult's job to not
to not abuse their power.
Like, have you seen that video of that black teacher who has the students doing his cornrows?
No.
And he put the video online like it was cute, and everyone's like, this is fucking, you have authority, bro. What are you doing? And he got fired.
Yeah.
We had female staff that I walked in on multiple occasions sitting like over one of the kids' shoulders, like doing braids. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yep.
Like, why don't you just take him on a boat ride and fucking sing guitar to him? Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Consoling individuals who genuinely had like a family member pass away, and like consoling someone. There's an okay way to console someone, and then there's a not okay way to console someone.
Yeah, the line is finite.
I would say crawling into their bed to hug them is not an okay way to console them. No. Even if I was over the covers, who gives a shit? At what point did you go, this is probably a bad idea?
If I knew there was therapy where a woman would get in bed with me and lay down, I'd go sign up for it right now.
Sign me the fuck up.
So we're not saying that where we worked was perfect at all.
No. Now on the flip side, because I want to give credit, because we're talking about like the worst of the worst kind of. We're hinting at the worst of the worst things.
There was some great
moments. There were some absolute great moments.
Geniuses that we work with. People who were brilliant at what they did.
People who were visionaries.
Don't ever think that was the majority. That was 0.02. But still, even seeing it happen 0.02, you're
fucked.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like if that was a dude, one of my friends, like a peer, and he was fucking around with a special needs girl in a home, I would fuck him up.
Yep.
So bad.
Yep. You're gonna have that street justice moment.
Yeah, man. You're fucking up. Yep. You can't do that with ladies. They get fired.
And so one thing I told Rem before, I think I told you when we went out to eat, when we helped you move some things, is that some of the individuals that we provided services to, they'll find us on social media, and some I will talk with, some I will not, and there's various reasons for that, but.
You got to be careful, because some of these kids, if you talk to them once or twice, Then the real kid will come through in a message.
Yeah. So I'm very selective.
Yeah, he knows. Bob knows.
And it's one of those, because I can tell the ones that are genuinely reaching out, being like, hey, like, just wanted to let you know that, like, I'm doing all right, and you know, thanks for your help. And those are the things that are cool.
Agreed.
Those are the things that are cool. One of the young men that we worked with, he hit me up and told me he works at a brewery.
Good job, dude. I know what you're talking about too. Good kid.
Yeah, and he helped create a beer that's on their tap. I was like, that's fucking awesome.
That's what makes it. You'd be like, we did it.
Yeah. And there was another one. Now, he sent me videos, but his videos were like of where he's living, because he's in independent living.
Yeah.
And it was like, hey, this is my living area. This is my neighborhood. This is my gym.
Some of them want you to know they didn't fuck up.
Yeah, they want you to know that everything's good, and they appreciate what you did. And that's the stuff that makes you, on the flip side, like, it's worth it. Because I always, at least when I still work there, I did have a moment once a week where I'm like, am I even making a difference?
Yeah.
And then it's like almost like the stars align, or it's like, you know, karma hears you, and it's like, then they'll call. Like, a former individual will call.
Ask to talk to you,
And just
be all
like, hey,
excited.
like, you know, I'm going on. Yeah, I'm like, I'm married. I have a family. And like,
But let's tell them about the other side.
and then there's the other side.
When you're sitting at home and the news comes on.
Yep.
And the news shows you somebody who got arrested for raping a kid.
Yep. Or someone got murdered.
And you're like, oh, that's my former student.
Yep.
Quite a few of those,
Quite
unfortunately.
a few had of those. Sadly, there were many a times where I had to go in to have conversations with administrators, where they said, yeah, so it's made the news that somebody we worked with, someone that we provided services to years ago, has passed away in a not so great way.
The dumpster, right?
Yep, that one too. Yep. So they were like, so this is how, if it comes up and anyone talks about it, this is how we do damage control. So just so you know. And it's like, okay.
But also, I hate to say this, the ones who ended up in those situations fucked around and found out.
Yeah, more often than not, a lot of them, they still made choices that led them down certain paths, and it led to that.
Always hurt though, man.
It still sucks, because you get to see, with a lot of the individuals that we worked with, you get to see the best part of them.
Yep.
You get to see like there is a redeemable qualities human being here.
And they know you see it.
Yeah.
So you get to see the redeemable part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then just to know, and then again, it adds to your fucking trauma, you know, and it adds to my trauma.
Yeah, no one tells you when you start, like, hey, you're going to be seeing a ton of no one tells you that. They don't.
And to be fair, like, some of it is because some of them need help with basic bathing.
It's a part of the thing. It's a part of it. You work with boys, but it's like kids do weird shit. Like, you'll catch one they'll straight up a paper clip and put it into their urethra. Yeah, that was the first.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do I do?
Yeah. Oh no. It's like, ugh. I've been there.
I know.
And I've been there where it's like, hey, I got an issue. What? Oh, fuck off. All right, let's go to the hospital. Yeah. Okay.
But me and Bob, like, we get fucked up when we see these documentaries where these places police these kids and kill these kids and traumatize these kids worse. Because we worked with the worst of the worst, and even we didn't fucking do that.
Yeah, because it's like, wow, like, what the?
They're kids, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. Did I ever tell you, and I won't tell the entire story, I think I've told you the real story, and this is a real thing, and it's one I look back in hindsight and be like, why the fuck didn't I leave when this happened?
Oh, sorry.
Like, why the fuck didn't I just get up and leave?
We all have those.
So one of the horror stories that we're hinting at was and bad things happened, and it just got resolved very quickly. I was told, I'm not a therapist, I was told to basically counsel my staff and to just kind of tell people kind of, hey, here's the deal. This is what's going on. We're not going to see people anymore. And just keep it going. But then, like, basically being a counsel for my staff. And
who's counseling you?
And there was no one to counsel me. And I had to sit there with grown adults who were brought to tears and saying things like, we worked with a monster. And I had to sit there and I look at that and go, like, why didn't I just leave? I should, like, Bob, in hindsight is always 20/20. I should have left at that moment, because I've been like, nah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I'll start with an example, but do you remember a moment when you were most physically scared for your life?
I remember several moments where I was physically scared, like very physically scared for my life.
I have one kid specifically. We don't talk about it, whatever, but like, I remember he was squaring off, and he wasn't with us very long. Incredibly tough, big kid, like 6'5", ripped. But you knew if you were going with him, that, like, this motherfucker was fighting for his life.
Yep.
It was going to be like an hour and a half scrap.
Yep.
I remember this kid was fucking me up and 2 other staff at the same time and was saying sorry to me while he was fucking me up.
Yep.
He's like, sorry, Remy, I got to do it.
Yep.
And like, we can't like punch back or do anything. We have things we can do. So if you're getting fucked up, you're getting fucked up. And I remember being like, oh, fucking this kid could snap my neck right now if he so chose.
Yeah. I've been, listen, I've been bitten to the point where I've had to go to the hospital.
Got the HIV cocktail?
Yep. I've been covered in someone else's spit multiple times.
The HIV cocktail, dude. Yeah. We're not allowed to know if any of the kids we work with have HIV or AIDS.
Well, and that's HIPAA law. That's
HIPAA
fair.
law.
Yeah, it applies to all of us too. You excluded. Yeah.
So if you got bit by one of these kids or their blood got in your mouth or something, you had to get the AIDS shot.
Yeah, the cocktail.
And what it was it's basically a bunch of AIDS. You just get little bits of AIDS for your body to fight.
Oh, I don't even say. I just basically say it's like they napalm your immune system.
Yeah, you get sick as fuck.
Yeah, it just kills everything in your body, your immune system too, and it's like having the flu for a couple days. And so I've been there. I've been there with that kind of shit.
Scary shit.
Yep, I just can't even tell you the amount of times. When I used to wear glasses, someone get a hold of them and snap my glasses in half. Hope you can't see on the way home and you crash, you piece of fucking shit. Hope you die too. Like
the mother shit I always found funny though.
Yeah, The best one I ever heard was someone who was so mad at me one time that they said, that they did have family member in gangs. They said they were gonna reach out to some family members and they were gonna do some work on me. Break my legs, bring me to an inch of death, and then watch them violate my mother, and then they'd slit my throat. Yep.
Knowing Bob, he's like, all right, well, this is where I live. Yep. I'll be home at this time.
But that's the other thing, too, is that it was such a fucked up place that it desensitizes
100%.
you. Desensitizes you to people. I had a conversation where someone, not to the extreme that I just told, but somebody told me, I hate you so much that when I get out of here, I'm going to find out where you live so I can come kill you. And then I was so desensitized, I turned it into a joke, and I fucked with them about it. And I said, so what's your plan? And then they told me their plan, and I said, I'm going to pause you right there. Never tell anyone your plan. Continue.
Yeah.
And then when they said this, and I said, well, what you didn't know is that either me or someone in my home has a license to carry a firearm. So once you cross the threshold, I'll be like, oh, he's such a happy-go-lucky person, but I remembered what the fuck you said, asshole.
Yeah.
And then I was like, so once you cross the threshold of my home and you present whatever weapon you do, I'm going to pull a gun out and put a bullet in your fucking head, and I won't even see a day in jail. And they were like, duh, duh, duh. And I'm like, no, let's run through this again. I'm going to write a document. This is now going to be a record, legal document that you have said you are going to try to kill me, and then you actually do it. And you cross the threshold of my phone, I have a right to defend myself. And they were like sitting there like thinking about it, and they were just like, they were so mad.
Yeah.
And they were just like, yo, you fucker, you
But those
asshole.
are always the first ones to be like, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
and they
didn't mean any of that.
Yeah, I was just mad.
No
It's like, yeah, but it's a fucked up thing to tell people.
Or like I'll rape the rape your mother one always got me though.
Yeah.
Because I'd be like, well, at least buy her a drink first. She likes red wine.
Yeah. Red wine.
Like the likelihood of you ever being around my mother is incredibly slim.
Yeah, I know. It's just the things that people say when they are mad is especially people with that trauma history, and to know that
my favorite one actually, because you just reminded me, was I almost said his name. Damn, he was like this really like fruity kid, funny kid, but also weird and perverted. And I remember like at the time I was dating this girl from California, and in the middle of the hold, he was like, everyone knows your girlfriend from California doesn't exist. I actually ended up having her, and this was a little off the books, but I had her record a video for him that I showed him 2 days later where she said, no, I very much exist.
Yeah, it's fine.
His name was
It's fine.
You can know, yeah, exactly.
Beep.
But
Yeah.
she's like, no, I very much exist. And he was like, she's real. And I was like, that's funny. So but yeah, you see a darkness, and that's like, you'll watch documentaries, people will talk about serial killers and moments when they look at them and there's nothing there. We saw that shit, dude.
And then on top of that, it was like high school. Like with your fellow coworkers, when it's away from the fuckery. It's like high school, for better or worse.
We had so much fun, dude.
Yeah, we had fun, but there was a lot of fuckery that went, like, for example, and they know who they are if they watch this or listen.
Yeah.
There was the young man we worked with who was very psychotic. Yeah, he was violent, but he was very psychotic too.
Yeah.
And he would say that he would hear people. And one day I was a part of the staff that took him on a tour of the house to show him nobody was around. And then he collapsed to a floor saying he was crazy, only to find out years later that it was 2 of our coworkers under his window. So I was like, and I'm like, that's funny. It's fucked, but it's funny.
No, it's crazy. There was a lot of that. There was a lot of like, you go downstairs or whatever, and a female staff comes down. She's like, "So what are you doing?" And then,
it's like, I'm not interested in whatever.
Well, Bob wasn't, but I was.
I know you were like game on.
I was like having a good time there for sure.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is we were all fucked up, and it was always consensual. Like we were adults, and everyone was just like, there was a but it was high school. Like when we weren't working, we were all smoking weed and drinking and like hanging out and just fucking being insane.
One of my favorite stories is by a coworker we had who like you and him like smoked up in the parking lot, like you guys were on break together.
Yeah.
And he was just like, "Oh, do you have any Visine? Like so I can get rid of the bloodshot in my eyes?" And you literally said to him, "Dude, why do you think I wear tinted glasses like this?" And he was like, I can't go inside right now. I'm freaking out because you said that.
I just told my work that too. I'm like, the glass, my new job, because obviously everyone's high. I work at a dispensary. I was like, why do you think these exist? Like they were a necessity.
Yep.
And every job, just because I never took them off, accepted it.
Yeah, and no one ever batted an eye. Was just like, is Remy even fucked up right now? Probably.
Actually, the one dude, oh my God, bro. Again, won't say his name. I come in one day from break, right? One of the cooler kids, and he's like, "You're high."
And it's like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, no, literally. He's like, "You even smell like it." And I was like, "Shut the fuck up, bro. I thought you motherfuckers didn't snitch. What the fuck?"
Yeah.
He was like, I'm like, "How do you think I got to deal working with y'all, man?" And that was nothing.
Yeah.
We had people at work. That was nothing. We had people coming in drunk, perked out, talking to the kids like this. "You guys need to do your chores."
Do you remember when we probably know who it was, but we can't say who, because we used to when we were second shift workers, and we would have to go get the vehicles, drive to the school, pick them up.
Oh, what, an empty?
And come home. No. So there were a couple people we had as supervisors who have access to certain things.
Yeah.
So they knew how things ran, and they were separated. The company would separate from them. And one day, there were two houses that were in this town in southeastern Massachusetts.
Not far from here.
Yeah, not far from where we are right now. And they were side by side, right next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And they were both broken into. And whoever broke into them knew where the safes were, where like all money was kept and all that. And that had to be someone that has worked there.
Yep.
And shit like that went on, and it was like, oh, whatever, you know. And it even went on after you left. Other people would come, other people would do the same shit.
I have staff who work there now who come into work.
Really?
Come into my job.
I feel for them.
One of them comes in, pretty nice kid. And
he just has the look.
No, he had the fucking a hoodie. A blank space hoodie. And I was like, "You work at blank space?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Dude,
what the fuck?"
And
I feel for you.
And he was like, "Wait, what's your name?" And I said, "Remy." He's like, "They still talk about you."
You know, the Remy box is still in our former boss's office, right?
Better be.
Yeah. I used to I worked there up until 5 years ago, and when I would go in there, because he has it on a shelf.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what it is, and then I would always make a reference to it, and then I wind it up and I'd start it, and everyone would just be like, "That is incredible," and I'd be like, "Yeah, this used to exist at this house on a."
It was a music box that had a picture of my head that would spin.
Hence the Remy box, and it would just spin with grins galore. And when it was still at that house, and I would get assigned to work there. Some days I'd go in and I'd just be like, "What's my motivation today?"
The Remy box.
And I'd go to the Remy box and I'd just like wind it up and I'd open it up for like 20 seconds and I'd be like, close it and be like, "I'm ready."
That's why I was there.
I'm ready. Yeah. So even after Remy left, he still.
But even
was
me,
existing.
like the story we just told, I wasn't leaving. He wasn't leaving. I left because I got in a fucking van accident.
Yeah.
With the kids, got completely abandoned, could have sued the whole fucking place and shut it down. I quit there because after my like rehabilitation, they were like, "You can come back as a new staff."
And it was like, no.
It's like, how fucking dare you?
Yeah.
I won staff of the year like 4 times. I did therapy. Like, that's when I was like, I'm becoming a writer. So I was like, that was that.
Yep. And I was on my way out anyway, but then I was so burnt out that it led to me making a poor life choice during my literally 4 days before my 2-week notice was up. And it led to me something happened, and it resulted in other trauma, not just to me, but to somebody else. And then I had to go to court over it. And I will just leave it at that.
Bob literally couldn't escape it.
Yep. Literally could not escape it until April of 2020 in the middle of a pandemic. When I was called by a probation officer who was just like, "Hey, have you been laid off?" And I was like, "Yeah, because that's a big deal. If you're on probation, you got to have that's like a contingency of your probation.
Yeah,
of legal probation is that you have to have a job." But they were just like, "Listen, we don't know what's going on. Everything's out the window, so you're fine."
There you go.
They like so essentially, and I'm calling you because I'm not even allowed to go into court because of COVID. But I am allowed to go into court because we're going to sign the paperwork, so you're good to go.
Good.
And I was like, thank you.
That was a bunch of fuckery.
Yeah. But I take ownership for the fact that I still had control over my actions that led to all that stuff, and I have to own that. I do. And I do. But it's also something that is why didn't I leave sooner? Not just so I could have avoided all that.
We all ask ourselves that.
But just because I could have just gave myself less of trauma and
the
less
real
of headaches.
answer is we really liked working with each other too.
Yeah.
That was a big part of it. We had a crew there at one time, and we just, dude, I can see those motherfuckers in 10 years, and I'll drop what I'm doing and give them a hug because we were in the fucking trenches together.
Yep. We've talked to, and it's not exactly the same for my people and my friends who are in the military and former military, but they say, like, the way we talk about it is like the camaraderie you have with a unit.
100%.
With a squad.
100%.
Like they say, like, yeah, you guys are, and one of them even said, like, well, yeah, you guys some days were literally going to battle with these violent individuals.
Or there'd be moments, like Bob would be like, there would be like a hold starting, and Bob had a hell of a day, and he'd be like, yo, Remy, I can't do it.
Nope.
And I'm in there for him,
I'm going to do bad things.
Yep. Same thing with me. I'd be like, yo, Bob, man, I can't fucking do this.
And we would protect each other.
100%.
I remember the day that this female staff, and she was not like, she was like good and she was therapeutic, but somebody got a hand free in a hold and they were trying to and I saw the fist and the arm go back and we were like, let's get you out of here. Let's get you out of here before that happens.
Yeah, that's just it. You have to realize and you become sort of the seatbelt for the other person, you know? Or we could even say, I'd be like, yo, Bob, you need to get out of here. Sometimes we don't know, and someone else will say, hey, Rem, go for a walk, smoke a butt.
And all that. And this is our long-winded way of saying, and we worked at, and I know we have our own negative opinions of the place. That's one of the better places.
I know. That's the point of this story.
It's actually a good place. There are plenty of individuals who get rehabilitated that go there.
The corporate sucked. The staff they got was fucking second to none.
Yeah. Back in the day, nowadays, but that's human services in and of itself. Yeah, that's not a reflection on
that whole
place.
field has tapped itself out, bro.
Yeah,
you're giving people minimum wage to deal with maximum trauma.
Yep. Why do this? Why deal with this shit when I can go work at Dunkin'?
Yep. For the same amount of money and not want to kill myself at the end of my shift.
And that's why.
And I'll admit, man, that job fucked me up sexually for a little while because there was a lot of sexual shit that went on. Fucked me up mentally. I just finally, after 15 years, have started falling asleep normally.
I haven't. Yeah, I haven't. I can't. I work a 9-to-5 job, and around 8, 9 o'clock every night, like my adrenaline starts running because I used to work until 11 o'clock at night, and like, and I can't. That's something I cannot shake. And then I'll be like, I literally will be like awake until like 1 in the morning, just laying in a bed.
It's like the worst, bro.
You know, I went and I remembered because when my wife and I were right around when we first got married and everything, and I would get home because she worked like an 8 to 4 job. And like, I would just lay in bed motionless so I didn't wake her up. Yeah. And I just couldn't bring myself down.
They sell CBN pens, bro.
I know.
CBN is like, it's just a sleep version of CBD.
I know. I did that for a little bit and it was helpful. But it's just, and that just shows you. I haven't worked at the place for 5 years. Remy even says 15 years. Remy, my favorite show when I first started at that job was Law and Order SVU. I thought it was a phenomenal show.
Then you lived it.
And then I lived it and I couldn't anymore. And that was a shame because it was a well-written show.
No, me too. Olivia
Benson.
Benson.
Acted. Yeah. Why am I going to?
Mariska Hargitay.
Thank you. And then Elliot. What's his
Spencer?
No,
I know the guy though. He looks like Robert De Niro.
Yeah. And I love him as an actor. I love the fact that away from that show, like all the stuff, like he did Wet Hot American Summer.
Yeah, he's crazy hilarious.
Yeah. But he has one of the lines that epitomizes working in human services, especially with people in trauma-informed care like we did. And it was from an earlier season. And she was not a part of the episode. Like she was doing something else and they brought in somebody else. Yeah. And he was just like, we're at a bar celebrating. We got a pedophile or whatever. And this young guy is just like, yeah, I just, I hope I get to your point where I just get used to it and can do my job the best I can. And he literally cut him off and he goes, no, you don't get used to it. You hate it. You hate it more than the first day you did it. And that's why you're so good at it, because of how much you hate it. And I remember like being like, that is my life. Yeah. That is my life. And I remember like you're talking about seeing on and everything and all that, and just having to have literally eyes in the back of your head and all that, and how hyper vigilant you had to be.
How crazy it was. You could drive a van. You could drive a van through traffic on a road and still watch kids to see if their hands were going down in the van. Crazy. Stop the van, get them fucking, put him in the front seat, blah, blah, blah. You became a ninja. This is why, like, I'll bug people out because I'll be at a restaurant. I'll be like, yo, those two people over there are fighting. You hear the conversation they had about that movie. They hated it. She's fucking actually literally wasted, and he's trying to carry her out. Like, just you become hyper vigilant.
Yeah, and speaking of that hyper thing, but also that thing that never leaves you, you have a really good radar on shitty people.
It's awful.
Yeah, and it's to the point where, it's awful because you can't shut it off.
You want to hear this, dude? So this customer comes in this week to my work, right? Immediately, my body knew. It was just like it
Your
knew.
spidey sense started to tingle.
Yeah. And then, but here's the thing. We get licenses to check people in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So their name gets saved, right? So this person comes in, not liking it at all. Not liking it in there either. He says some creepy things. He leaves. That's even better. You put the big head on the... He leaves. One of my coworkers is like, that guy, huh? I'm like, yeah. I wonder what happens if you put his name into Google.
Oh, yeah. I wonder.
Level 2 sex offender has raped 3 children.
No.
And I was like, I went to my bosses and I said, we don't have to let these motherfuckers in. And they're kind of like, yeah, but corp, yeah, you kind of do.
They're like, yeah, but then we could get hit with discrimination.
Yep, there's nothing. Yep. There's nothing. And I was just back to where I used to be. I was like, oh, cool. I paid attention when he left. I paid attention to his car, but...
yeah.
But yeah, it makes you you can smell them.
Yep. And
we are talking about pedophiles, by the way.
Yeah, we
Sorry.
Yep. Yeah, we did, because we did work with people who were on the registry.
Yep.
We did.
You can smell them. They have a way they walk. They have a way they talk. They have a gait. They have a hairstyle. You can smell them, bro.
Yep. And I know what it's like when I'm at a place like the Registry of Motor Vehicles, and I know someone's looking at me thinking the same things on that. Looking at me, having the thoughts about me that I'm having about them. But I'm like, the difference is you're looking at me that way and you're terrified.
Yeah.
Because you know that I'm a fucking lion. Yeah. And I will end you.
I will cut you in half.
I will end you. I will end you and the world will be a better
that was
place.
Also hard. You guys got to understand. It's like, this kid's coming in here. He raped his little sister. Well, how do we not kill him?
Because
but then it's like, he raped his little sister because his dad systematically raped him for fucking 14 years every night till he bled out of his anus. It's like, so he was simply mimicking. It doesn't make it better.
A learned behavior.
He thought it was love, so he gave love to his sister. That's how fucked up what we did was.
Yep.
Like, we've never even allowed ourselves to do this. But fuck it.
To process it.
Yeah, we're allowed to talk. We're allowed to not...
allowed to talk about how we are appreciative of the great work we did, the great work we were a part of.
And I was a hero.
But that it came at a cost.
Yeah. That's hero shit, though.
Yeah.
You know what? A true hero is the one who step up and do the hard shit no one else will do, bro.
Yep.
Someone can push someone out of the way of a bullet, but are you going to try to go into a home and actually try to help these kids so they don't offend again? That's hero shit, bro.
Yep. Are you going to do what nobody else, when nobody else will do anything, are you going to do what it takes?
Yep.
Even though you know what it means to you, like you said earlier, even though you know that it could hurt you. Because I'd had many a staff who would, when I climbed and I was a supervisory staff, and they'd say, well, don't you get scared? I'm like, I'm always scared that something bad could happen to you, to me, to them, to everybody.
It's like that Hulk suit. You're just like, what's your secret? And he's like, I'm always mad.
Yeah.
You're just always prepared.
Yeah. And it's why, even though I liked my last job, because the reason I left that job was because I was going to have to be like 24/7 on call. And it just, that in and of itself triggered me of all those times when I had to get phone calls when I was at home about horrible things. And I said, I can't do it anymore. I just can't. And I'm just calling it. I'm calling it.
Yeah.
I'm calling it.
Stopwatch is off.
Yep. It's the end of my watch. My watch is done.
Yeah.
And I just, I can't do that stuff. And that's why now I teach people. Because I do have enough of those skills where I can just be
you're
like,
great at it.
Learn from my mistakes, and these are my stories, and I'm going to tell you plenty of funny stories and plenty of good stories, and about how you can avoid sometimes having to deal with the fuckery and things to look out for.
Amen.
But yeah, we wanted to come on because Netflix went through a thing where they, like, one of those kind of docuseries wasn't enough, and they just had to put out like 3 of them.
But they're all the same story.
And they're all the same.
Staffed wrong, led by the wrong people for the wrong intentions. It's a for-profit place. The kids aren't even treated as humans. None of their trauma is addressed. It's just stacked.
And ultimately what it comes out to me is how in our country we always look at they and them. Like, oh, that's something that goes on in Russia. Or that's something that goes on there. That stuff doesn't go on in our country.
Right
Fuck
now,
you. Bullshit.
Right
yes,
now,
does.
in this moment, there are kids walking the Nevada desert, overgeared up, with 2 coked out fucking drill sergeants, drinking whole cantinas of cold water in front of them because part of the process is making
they're
them
not walking,
go
and they're driving. They're on the back of a fucking pickup truck.
ATV, yeah. So please don't think we're talking about some rare, weird shit. I promise you, in your state, there's probably one.
Yep. And how even a state that's held up like Massachusetts, it's not perfect. And that's really what it comes down to. And just, we wanted to use a episode to be cathartic about that.
You want to strike a chord, and it's probably A minor.
Oh, look at that, going full circle. Rem goes full circle right there. I love that. Rem, it's been good.
Yeah, man, it feels right, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. Thank you for your openness and your sharing.
Yeah, man, you as well.
Thank you.
I love it. I miss this shit. I always forget that this show is my therapy.
Yeah.
I'd go home feeling 10 pounds lighter.
Yeah. And we don't even have to take a shit to do it.
No.
Oh, look.
Touche, sir.
Yeah,
Touche, say.
Yeah. So again, much like anything, if you have any experiences like that, we are so sorry. I won't even say like share them with us. Please, you don't have to.
No, actually, you know what?
But if you do, like you can.
Well, I'm just going to say, I would love to talk to a former group home kid. We can't do it.
Yeah,
we wouldn't be able to do it with someone that we dealt with. We can't. Yep. There are laws, there are things, they're very private. Mm-hmm. But if one of you just happens to be or had an experience or did a couple weeks, we'd love to hear your story.
Yeah.
Bring you on, or even we could do it over the fucking internet, like whatever. But I think that'd be really interesting because I've been on that side of it with Bob.
Yeah.
I've never been on that side of it with anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I would love that. And I do agree with Rem. I'm sure like, because the people that have reached out to me who will see like this episode, and they probably would be like, have their own questions or reach out, and then we'd have to think, well, that's a fine line we have to walk, and unfortunately, like...
But we can talk it with someone else.
Yeah.
And I would love to know some of your experiences.
Okay, but if you have a friend who we didn't work with, and they want to come on and share their experiences, have the fuck at it. They can absolutely come on here and talk with us about it.
Yeah. But for now, stay tuned, guys. We're working on it. You know, we got a couple more coming out, which is great, and we're going to keep working on it, and stay tuned, man. We appreciate those of you who've been loyal. We promise more shit's
happily
coming.
Waiting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So stay tuned.
Yeah. All right. Take care, everyone. Love you.
We're going to end with Danny DeVito's Zoom.
Okay.
Right up to the camera.
Go for it. Yeah. As I just fuck around with all this stuff.